remove the wheel, use a 21mm socket. Take the lug nuts off. Pull the wheel off. Take these two caliper bracket bolts out. Use a 19mm socket. And take a pry tool like a screwdriver and just slide the caliper out. Slide it upside down right here. Take a 14mm socket, take these two bolts out. And slide the bracket right off. Take the caliper bracket and a little bit of brake caliper grease. Just put it in this location on both sides. Take the anti-rattle clips, or the pad clips, push those in position. The same on this side. Take a little more brake caliper grease and just do a nice thin coat, just where the pads are gonna slide. Now take the new brake pads. For this one, we're gonna use the squealer on the inside. If you compare it to the pads that you took off, there was no brake warning indicator on the old ones, but we're gonna use that right there. And then this one is gonna go on the outside, just like that. Take the new caliper and just compare. You wanna take this hose off fairly quickly. Make sure there's plenty of fluid in the reservoir so you don't spill too much out. So we're gonna pull this bolt out and then just move onto this caliper. And we have the washers and the bolt right here. Use a 12mm socket, take this bolt out. Pull that bolt off. Make sure the washers are not still attached to the hose. Take the new banjo bolt and put it through the brake hose. Make sure there's a seal on both sides. And get that started in the caliper, just like it came off. And just tighten this up just so it doesn't leak. We're gonna have to torque it later once it's attached to the car. Take the caliper slide pins and just use some caliper grease. Give it a nice coat. Take the bracket with the pads and slide it into the caliper. And if you're looking at the caliper like this, the pin with the rubber goes on the top and the other one goes on the bottom. Keep in mind when you take it apart which one came where. Helps if you put your fingers in between the brake pads. Just makes it a little easier. And we'll torque those after it's on the vehicle as well. Now slide the caliper with the pads over the rotor. Take the two bolts, get those started. On the top bolt, there is a bracket for the wheel speed sensor. Put that bracket on first before you put the bolt in. Now I'm going to torque the caliper bracket bolts to 62 foot-pounds. Do the best to get a torque wrench in there. For the caliper slide pins, I'm going to torque those to 32 foot-pounds. Do the best you can for this bottom one. Now torque the brake line hose bolt or the banjo bolt to 13 foot-pounds. We're going to start by gravity bleeding these. I'm just going to take an 8mm wrench and crack open the bleeder screw. Make sure you put a bucket or drain bucket underneath. Make sure the top of this is clean. You can wipe with a rag. And then take the brake fluid cap off the master cylinder and top off the brake fluid. We'll leave this off until we see brake fluid coming out of that bleeder screw. Once it starts coming out pretty good stream, then just snug this up and we're gonna bleed it regularly. Now you're gonna need a helper. Have someone pump the brake pedal, so go nice and slow, pumping the brake pedal. All right, once you do that about 5 times, have the person hold the brake pedal. Go ahead and hold the brake pedal. Now, while they're still holding, crack open the bleeder. You see some air, and then close it. Now pump the brake pedal again, nice and slow. And then hold it. As they're holding it, crack it again. Some more air came out. Do this about 3 to 4 times. All right, hold it. And that looks good. Snug this up. Put the cap on. Spray a little brake parts cleaner and get off some of the residual. Put the tire back on. Put the lug nuts on. Now torque the lug nuts down to 80 foot-pounds in a cross pattern or star pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. Go around again, double check. Make sure you pump the brake pedal nice and slow. There'll be an air gap between the brake caliper piston and the brake pads. After you're done, check the brake fluid level and adjust accordingly. There is a max line over here, so at this point mine's overfilled, so I have to take some of the fluid out. Take the cap off. You can use a fluid transfer pump. Just make sure it's clean and extract some of the brake fluid until you're below the max line. That's good right there.